might mess up my flow. So, I'm on the board at the health department, and so we appreciate the library hosting us for this TikTok. This is the only TikTok I'm ever going to do in my life. That I can assure you. So this is just an update of what we're going to find here in the county. This is the Asian longhorn tick. It's confirmed in Belmont and Monroe. I just looked at the map. It's parthenogenic, so this is the one that will kill cattle. Parthenogenic means it doesn't need a male. Each female can produce up to 1,000 babies without being inseminated, which is a little bit scary. Survives for at least a year without feeding, so rotational grazing will not break the cycle. It's a very small tick. I'm going to show you a picture of it. It's real hard to see. Easiest spots, it's going to congregate initially in the spots where the hair is thin. So ears, neck, under tail, armpits, inside the flanks. Under tail is a very common and easy spot to find ticks in cattle. The signs of infestation are you just have unthrifty, they don't gain weight very well, get a patchy hair coat. They get a patchy hair coat because they're rubbing the hair off, because they'll have thousands of them on them. If they're anemic, which they have, the one in Belmont County that was diagnosed, they had an 1,800-pound bull that was anemic. That's how many ticks this thing had. And these ticks are small. So when they die from blood loss. They can all, now this, go ahead, next one then. So I should tell you this is a summer tick, March through October, where the deer tick is not. We'll cover that. So to control it, and here is the bee on Liberty. Okay, that's the male, that's the female. So the female is about the B, the E, and part of the R. This is a very small tick. The larval and nymphal stages are going to be the size of poppy seeds. So you're not going to see them. They'll attach to pretty much any mammal, including humans. Control, reduce brush, reduce weeds, tall grass, fence out woodlots because they're found at edges. So if you have like a shrubby ditch, they're going to be right at the edge of that shrubby ditch. The biggest thing for farmers to do is just look at every cow you buy. Because in this area, you're going to buy them in. They're probably not going to get to you naturally because we don't have enough to get to you naturally, so you're going to buy them in. Virginia is particularly affected, something like half the counties of Virginia. So another option, go ahead, next one though. Another option is just treat everybody. So pyrethrin is very effective. There are lots of pyrethrin products, but we encourage you not to use strictly pyrethrin or you will get resistant because they're ticks. Eventually, they're going to rule the world. So albamectin or beta-cyflurin are both ear tags, XP820 and silent shawlproof. If you're a cattleman, you would understand those terms. They both control for 5 months. The key is early, so you want to tag them in March. Normally you're fly tagging in May, but you would fly tag in March, and if labeled, I would fly tag my calves when you give them their ear tag when they're just a couple days old. Also use back and side rubs, loaded with Fosmet at pinch points, so where they go in between fields. You'll see a lot of these oil, we call them oil rags or whatever, but you load them with you also put hangers on them so it gets their sides. Try to treat everybody at the same time. You can use any of the porons. Ivermectin's one. Zydectin, there's a bunch of them out there. Ivermectin's not waterproof. And if you use ivermectin, you're probably going to have to retreat in 5 days, especially if you get any rain at all. Whereas if you use the other ones, they're more waterproof. So it's coming. It's not been documented in Harco, but it will be documented in Harco once we really start looking for it. So I do expect it in the next few years, since it's in Belmont, The place they dragged in Belmont, they got 10,000 ticks when they did a tick drag. That was a very infested. So these guys that don't brush hog and have these weeds growing up, they're going to have trouble. It's really going to be, a lot of it's going to be pasture management. So it's coming. Now, these are the ones we're really here for. So Dermacenter, Parabilis, which is the dog tick. That's this one over here. Parabilis is has to do with the carapace. You can see it's got different colors on it. It's very variable, hence the name Parabilis. Black-legged tick is this center one. We've been seeing Lyme at the clinic now for about 15 years. Now, probably unvaccinated dogs, probably one in every 3 or 4 positive. This is our newest addition. This is the Lone Star tick. You can see it's got a star in the middle of its back. So we're going to cover these guys because they're all scary in their own special way. We'll start with the American dog tick. So American dog tick is not so scary. It's the one we're used to. It's the one where when you were little, you pull your big ticks out of your dog's ears. So you can go ahead to the next one. You can see those. They tend to go to the head. That's the one when you're walking out through the field and at night you pick them off your head. In our area, we don't have much to worry about from those ticks. It is a 3-host tick, so it starts out on small mammals and then it goes to large mammals like dogs, deer, people. Females lay 4,500 to 6,000 eggs over 2 to 4 weeks. One of the things you want to look at, so here's this mouth part right here. That is a very small mouth part. So when you pull those out, you get a little chunk of skin with them, but you don't feel them, they don't hurt, no big deal. May, June, July peak season, they are stimulated by light intensity. So they're not a winter tick at all. They're not going to be active. Matter of fact, right now you'd be hard pressed to find one because our days are getting shorter, so they're not as active. Grass and weeds with sun exposure. Typical field tick, it's the one weed pulled off of us, we're still pulling off of us. They do like different people differently. Like if you walk next to me, I will attract every one of them for you. It's just, they like me for some reason. So it does transmit Rocky Mountain spotted fever, has to be attached for at least 6 to 10 hours, which is not very long. Fever, muscle aches. So we see Rocky Mountain spotted fever about every other year at the clinic. It's probably underdiagnosed because the test is expensive. So a lot of times we're like, well, we're going to rule it out just by treating it. It is one of the only diseases that causes a rash on your palm and the soles of your feet. So if you're feeling crappy and you got a rash on your palm of your feet, there's a fair chance you got Rocky Mountain spotted fever. It is primarily in the southeast. In 2000, there were 500 cases. This is CDC. In 2016, there were 6,500 cases. So if you go down, here's the distribution. You can see there's one white spot. That's hard code. Okay? And that just means it hasn't been diagnosed. It doesn't mean it's not here. It doesn't mean they didn't give them a 3rd generation cephalosporin because they thought it was something else and it fixed it. So it is fairly susceptible to a lot of things. So Rocky Mountain spotted fever, we always talk about it. I don't foresee it becoming a huge problem just because we don't have the density it takes to make it a huge problem. But it is always on our radar at the clinic for these oddball joint issues that aren't Lyme positive and some of these. So we always keep it on our radar, but we don't officially diagnose it just because it costs every couple of years. And like I say, in human medicine, it's probably undiagnosed but treated. So next slide. So this is the one we're really here to talk about. So if you remember, the longhorn tick covered the bee, the male did. So this is an adult. That's the same size as a longhorn tick. You're going to have a hard time finding those on a cow, especially a black cow. Now, look at these mouth parts. They're 3 times as long as your American dog tick. These ones, when they bite you, you feel it. Okay? So, this is nymph, larva, male, female. Nymphs are active now, spring and summer, so are larvae. And so this guy's not going to bite us. It doesn't have mouth parts long enough to penetrate us, but it will bite children. This guy will bite us. And we have 100, well, we'll get to that slide in a second. But you can see on a black dog, or on your head, that won't be seen. I had a friend who, from the county, checked into a hotel in Cleveland, sent me pictures and wondered if these were bed bugs. And they weren't. They were black-legged ticks that she carried up there herself. And they were all wee little like that. They were all black-legged ticks. She pulled like, her husband got like 7 of them off of her. And so we're there. Once we get below 55, they're very, very active ticks. The adults are very active. A couple of, so the dog tick, you know, you don't ever pull a dog tick off your side because they always go to your head. These guys here will attach to the first place. Back of your knees, I can't tell you how many of them I've had right here. First place they can come from, right here. It's amazing, really. I had a buddy of mine, he thought he had a boil. They lanced it. It was a black-legged tick that got so deep the skin closed over it. And it caused an abscess. So these guys, they're deep. Go ahead to the next slide. It's also a 3-host tick, larva. Spring is nymph, larva is summer. Larvas are probably our main transfer in this county because our peak is July. And we're going to see that here in a second. Small mammals, but feed on there. They will actually, they're one of the few ticks that will get on amphibians. So they don't care what kind of blood it is, they'll take it. Adults, fall, winter, large mammals, until you get below 35, they're active. 35 to 55, which for us nowadays is October through April. March, you know, we don't have the winters we used to have. Long mouth parts cause a lot of inflammation. So when you remove them, you are going to have a red spot. That is not a line wheel. We got a picture of a line wheel coming up. They are a forest and shrub tick, so you're not going to get them in the field. You're going to get them along the shrubs, along the edges of the woods. 2 to 4 years life cycle. So these suckers are long term. I saw a video of one of these. He was frozen solid and he was questing like this. And they did a time lapse where they melted the ice, and as soon as the ice melted off of them, they started going like this. I mean, these guys are scary. What kills them is not cold weather. What kills them is or snow. What kills them is cold, dry weather and wind because they dehydrate. So if they're, you know, if we get those 10-degree days where it's really windy for 2 or 3 weeks in a row, that kills more ticks than anything. If there's 6 inches of snow when we get that, they survive it because they're under snow. It's dehydration that kills them. Go ahead to the next one. So I'll be honest, this is a moving target. It was 72 hours, then it was 48 hours, then it's 30 hours, and I read 24 hours. So the reality is we don't know how long it takes to transfer these. But we do know, so here is an arm, here is a line wheel. You can see how big it is. And it would not have been, if it was a larva, it's the size of a poppy seed, that may not have even been noticed. So, rash, fever, headache, joint ache, 3 to 30 days with an average 7-day life cycle, or incubation period. It does cause a chronic issue. The chronic issue is not from the Lyme organism, it's from an immune reaction to the Lyme organism. So the Lyme organism is very easily killed with doxycycline. In human medicine now, they're down to 7 to 10 days for Lyme. And so in veterinary medicine, there's a lot of debate. I do 14 days. My associates do 28 days. And they have a consensus statement. And it's the only consensus statement I've ever read that the first line says we were unable to come to a consensus. So I tend to be more conservative in my antibiotic use. I do 14 days, I've not had any relapses. So I feel like I'm doing what do we need to do. Affects any organ. You can have heart, you can have palsy, you can have arthritis, you can have kidney failure. In dogs, if you give 100 dogs Lyme, only 5 of them are going to be clinically ill. 5 of them are going to have big joints and high fevers. 80 of them are going to clear it on their own. So they test positive, but if you actually look for the organism, it's not present. 15 of them are going to harbor it in their kidney. Of those 15, about 20%, 20 to 30% are going to die within 2 years of acute renal failure. So if you're positive in the animal world, we treat every positive because we don't know if you're harboring it. We are averaging a 2 to 5 year old dog dying of renal failure every 3 to 4 weeks. That's how much Lyme there is. And so now that we're vaccinating and the vaccine is outstanding for dogs, we're actually starting to tail down a little bit. It's kind of nice. They're very, very close to having the vaccine for people. They're in stage 3 trials right now. One of their testing sites is in East Liverpool. So we've got some locals going through that. Next. Oh, this is year-to-date data. So I had a 2018 slide in here, and I asked them to update it at the health department. The 2018 slide had about 48 cases for the entire year. We had 50 cases in July alone this year. Now, this is only confirmed cases, and they're only confirmed if they do a certain testing protocol. If you go in with this big rash, the doctor's going to treat you, and it's not going to be a confirmed positive. This is literally the tip of an iceberg. It's estimated that it's 10 times higher than that. So even if it's 5 times higher than that, that means what? How many? We have 14,000 people. That means 6% of the people are getting Lyme in this county every year, and a lot of them are getting it multiple times. My son's had it twice. One of the interesting things is about 20% of the people present with Bell's palsy. And that's when my son woke up one day and couldn't blink. Went in and they said, "You go into the woods," he said, "every day." They said, "We're testing him." He was positive. They treated him and he got better. So, and then he got it again like 4 months later. So, we are number 1 in the state. Thank you. One of the smallest populations. We're in the 7th smallest counties in the state. We're the highest by far in Lyme cases. That is for 2 reasons. One is we have a ton of Lyme, well, a lot of reasons. 2, we have a population that spends a lot of time outside. Whether it's hunting, fishing, farming, hiking, whatever. There's a lot of people outside all the time. 3 is we are in tune to it. Okay? So, one of my staff members was having some clinical symptoms. She called in urgent care at Steubenville and said, "I'd like a Lyme test." And they said, "We don't do those." I told her, "Go to Harrison." She walked in the door. Harrison says, "No problem. We'll test you." So it's a matter of what you're in tune to. And the physicians in this area have seen so much Lyme that they're literally in tune to it right away. So part of that is we're just treating more because we're more in tune to it. You still hear the horror stories. I was sick for 8 weeks before they figured out it was Lyme. My neighbor, he'd been going to the doctor, and he had tinnitus and twitching in his eye. I said, "You better get tested for Lyme." So he was going to a specialist. The specialist said, "Nah, there's no way this is Lyme." So he came back to Harrison County, got tested, he had Lyme. So it's partially that we're in tune to Lyme. And he treated, the tinnitus went away. So, you can see the years. Look at this year. Boop. We're way up there. So, it's getting worse. I don't know, what's the next slide?
Moving on to the Lone Star tick.
Okay. Go back one. We're still on that. So, when you're removing black-legged ticks, if you just pull them like a normal tick, you're going to break them off. Your body will react to the mouth parts. You're going to get a red area on your skin. It's going to be about the size of a pencil eraser. It's going to be red, and it's going to be a little bit sore to the touch. So that's your body reacting to the mouth part you left in, and it's not an emergency. It's not going to increase your chances of Lyme. When you pull a Lyme tick, you grab onto it, and they make actual pullers, and you elevate your skin like this. You tense your skin up for at least 30 seconds. You're loosening up the cement that holds it in there, and that way you can pull it. Go back a couple slides. Right there. Look at these barbs. Those barbs are what's in you. It takes time to pull those out, and if you just pull it, you're going to break it off right here every time. So you got to pull them slow. 90% of Lyme transmissions are stopped cold if you apply Neosporin to the spot once you remove the tick. I forgot to put that in the slide. So the Pendletons have Neosporin by like the case like. We're always outside, we're always getting ticks. But if you pull that and you put Neosporin, there's a good chance you're going to because the Lyme is still right there and it's very sensitive to the polymyxin B and the Neosporin. So the key is slow and treat. It's going to leave a red spot. A Lyme wheel is not a little red spot. A Lyme wheel is big. Silver dollar per wiener now, guys. Not the silver dollars they have now, about this big. Get a big silver dollar. All right, next. All right, this to me is the scariest tick in the woods. This is the Lone Star tick. So this is questing. These ticks are smelling carbon dioxide that you're breathing. They can pick up carbon dioxide. So what happens is they don't jump, they don't fall, they don't do anything. They do this, and you got this carbon dioxide, and you're like, okay, carbon dioxide. I can hear it, I can feel it. They go up like this, and when you hit this, they grab on it. It's called questing. That's what they do. They don't jump, they don't fall. So they only can grab. So this guy is questing. He's at the top of a piece of grass from that's been mowed, and he's questing. So Lone Star tick, it's pretty obvious why they call him Lone Star. Although they are a Texas tick. Next. It's also a three-host tick. Feeds on any animal and wild turkey. So one of the vectors for young Lone Star ticks are the wild turkeys we have in the area. Second growth woodlands where deer are present. So it is not it likes deer. Deer are central to its life cycle. It doesn't need deer, but it prefers deer and wild turkey. So what does Harco have? Deer, wild turkey, and lots of second growth woodlands. July, August, September, it's a summer tick. So, next. Transmits anaplasmosis. Anaplasmosis, acute fever, chills, muscle pain, vomiting, diarrhea, just like all these other ones. Any virus, any flu, anything. These, unless you get tested. So in dogs, I've never seen a clinical case. They tend to fight it off on their own. And in people, that is the case as well. I would guess if we did a serological test on Harrison County, a percentage of us would have had it and not known we had it or thought we had the flu or what have you. So its incidence mirrors Lyme. So as Lyme goes up, it goes up. Okay. Next. It also transmits tularemia, which we don't have in this area. It's called rabbit fever, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, babesiosis. Babesiosis, I did a research project in the Dominican Republic on babesiosis in 1988. And I spent a summer researching babesiosis. And it was a tropical disease, and it's coming. It's in Virginia for sure. So it'll get here eventually. However, here's what makes this guy scary. It causes you to be allergic to mammal protein. So, you get bit. Go to the next slide. I think it shows it better. You get bit. It has this alpha-gal. Okay? So you get this tick bite. It injects this alpha-gal. Alpha-gal mimics a protein found in mammal protein, primarily beef. Then one day you're out for a steak. 3 months later, you eat a steak. Next thing you know, you're in the hospital. Because, well, you can see how purple that one's hand turned. That's an arm. So, it makes you deathly allergic to beef. That's why it scares me, because I love it. And if you go back up one. That's a good way to say it. Alpha-gal remains in the alimentary tract, and so when it injects it into us, your body reacts to it, and it reacts to it basically in the same way it reacts to a vaccine. It's an IgE reaction, and so it basically vaccinates you against beef protein. And it does wear off. Go back down again. But it takes 8 months to 5 years. You cannot eat beef. Think about that. That's the scariest tick in the woods to me. Because, I don't want to be a vegetarian, really. I mean, I guess I could eat all chicken, but that get kind of boring after a while. But beef is the worst, and it's the most common. And we had a friend that got this, and it literally was out to dinner one day, ordered steak, and they had to give it up an hour. Yeah, so this one really is not good. This one worries us. So it's the only one that carries anaplasmosis around here. 3 years ago at the clinic, we've done screening tests now for 5 years, no more than that, probably 15 years. About 4 years ago, we get an occasional, maybe 3 or 4 anaplasms a year. Now we're up to probably 1 or 2 a week, which means this tick is in our area, and it's more and more in our area. The difference is I don't routinely treat for anaplasmosis. Both my dogs came up positive for anaplasmosis this year. And that's even with tick control on it. So, yeah, this one's going to be scary. What's the next slide? The key, honestly, is prevention. I am not a gigantic fan of pesticides. However, I do wear pesticides now because of these ticks. I prefer this product here for primary because it will last 6 laundries. So I typically have a couple of shirts and 2 pair of hiking pants that are sprayed, and that's what I use when I go hiking or out in the woods or bird watching or what have you. Ticks hate permethrin. It burns their feet. And so they won't even get on you. So I cannot stress prevention enough. Permethrin does not affect mammals, except unless you're a cat. It's toxic to cats, by the way, so don't spray your cat with it. But it's very effective. It's as safe as you're going to get. It is what I recommend. It is what I use. They now have a version that you can actually spray on your pets. Dogs, not cats. It causes tremors in cats. They typically survive. They just shake like a leaf for about 3 days. Got to put them on an IV and just support them. So, it's the answer for prevention because we're the health department. We're all about prevention, right?
Yes.
That's right. Good answer. So it's what I would recommend. It's what I recommend everybody buy. And it is what I use. I've been using it now for 3 years. I'm out in the woods. I'm over 300 miles this year in Harrison County woods hiking. And I have pulled 0 ticks off me this year. So it does work. It does work. Yes, sir.
You have that on your clothes.
Yes, sir.
And a cat.
That's not an issue. Once it dries, it's not an issue.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can snuggle your cat all you want. So they want you to do this outside, and once you do it in your garage, you'll understand why they want you to do it outside. Okay. Yeah, and it is, and it aerosolizes. So I do mine outside, and I just hang it up in a ventilator, and hang them up in the garage and let them dry. And then I just have a little mark inside so I know which ones are treated. And then roughly every 6 washings or so, I retreat them. But yes, once it dries, it is safe for your cats. Now, wet, it's not safe if it's wet. Mild cases, which we see semi-frequently, because this is another product. They're designed for fleas and ticks for dogs, and it says for dogs that people put on their cat. Mild case, they just get a little wobbly. But a severe case, they're like, we're going to have to put them on IV for usually 48 hours. So it is safe once dry. Absolutely. That's a good question. I probably should put that. I should actually put that up there, including your pets. Yeah. So these are our ticks, and these are not the scale, because if they were the scale, oh, this is a little bit bigger. It's not quite as big as Dermacenter, but it's big enough that you can see. Where this one here is really super small. Super small. So this next slide, I forgot to give my dog tick medicine. I thought, I better give him tick medicine. It's getting warm enough for ticks. So I gave him tick medicine that morning, and then we went out on a hike. Next slide. That's less than a mile in Harrison State Forest. So what you'll find with the tick products for pets is the ticks will get on your pet, they just won't stay on your pet. So these guys, they're all running towards his head, and they all run towards their head. By the time I get home, they're gone. Okay? So it takes, 15 minutes. So if you put them out in the garage for 15 minutes, the ticks will be gone. But the only one that will prevent ticks getting on you is the sawyers. And like I say, they just came out with a pet-friendly version. I haven't tried it yet. But I'm going to, what I would do there is I would just spray it on a paper towel, and I would just wipe them down. So that is less than a mile in Harrison State Forest. And if my recollection's correct, I could look it up on my phone, but that's like March 3rd. That's right when it's getting above freezing. And isn't that crazy? Welcome to Harco, baby. We got her all, Harco. So, that's my half hour. You got any questions? Yes, sir.
I do. I don't know if you can answer this, but
yeah,
I donate blood on a regular basis.
Yes.
At the Red Cross.
Yes.
And I understand that they do many screenings.
Yes,
on,
absolutely.
Do you know if they screen for Lyme?
I don't know the answer to that. So I'm not even sure Lyme can be. A lot of these diseases require an intermediate host to develop so they're infective. Does that make sense? So it's like so it develops inside of the tick to the point where it can infect humans. Whereas baby Lyme may not be able to infect humans. I'd have to look that up, but a lot of them are like that. I don't believe they do. They're primarily checking for viruses, so I don't believe they do check for Lyme. Now, in people, so in dogs, Lyme carriers that are not clinical, 15%. I'm pretty sure in people it's not like that. You either have Lyme or you don't. And in people, seem to be more sensitive to Lyme. I mean, if you get Lyme in people, most of you are getting sick. Sick enough to go get treated. At least go get looked at. So I don't know if the Red Cross, I'd ask them, be curious, but I would say no. They're not typically checking for that sort of thing. And I would guess that has to do with transmission. I'd have to look that up, but my guess would be it may not be able to be transmitted through blood. Or a lot of the viruses aren't transmitted. Yeah. Yes, ma'am?
I saw in the newspaper last year, like there's a capital number
Yeah.
for Lyme disease. Is that number from last year similar to this year?
Oh, we're actually further ahead this year. Yes, we are number 1+ this year. No, we're further ahead. Once again, I think that's partially because we're actually diagnosing it. Where I think in a lot of jurisdictions they're not diagnosing it. I don't see why we would be higher than Coshocton County, which was Lyme central in the state. That's where Black Lake maybe 6 was the worst. So maybe a couple things. I think it's real, first of all. I do think if we're not number 1, we should be. But I think it's a possibly reporting issue. You know, our partners report to us. In some of the bigger jurisdictions, they may not report. I don't know. But I think we get pretty good reports, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a lot of cooperation.
I was just gonna add, like, we actually, our director of nursing has been in contact with some of the other kind of like staff pairs, that maybe weren't reporting as much as they should, or weren't aware of how to report or how to get it to us. So we've actually just resolved that issue too. So we're seeing
Big pump
more
because they're actually
yeah,
reporting
because
directly.
now it's being reported as it should be.
Yeah, so it is a reportable disease in Ohio, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think there'll be a day when it won't be reportable just because it's going to be so common. But the vaccine would probably, I don't know if we're within a year, but within a couple of years. And I'm out in the woods so much, and Lyme is a really scary disease because if you're that 1 or 2% that develops long Lyme, it's devastating. I mean, what's that?
I know a couple of folks who've been diagnosed that way.
They're miserable, and they're miserable for years, if not the rest of their life. So to me, Lyme is a really scary disease. It can actually dramatically change your life, especially if it's not diagnosed promptly. So to me, it's definitely worth the risk-benefit ratio for a guy like me who's out in the woods all the time. The vaccine is, I'm signing up. I actually signed up for the trials, but I couldn't do them because the requirements were more than I could get away with if I have an active job. So, at any rate, I did sign up for the trial, so that's how committed I am to that vaccine.
Is that gonna be like a shot you get?
It's gonna be a shot, yeah.
Just get it once a year like the flu vaccine?
Yeah, so first of all, if it's like the dog vaccine, we'll just assume it is, all right? The dog vaccine wasn't a very good vaccine until about 6 years ago. And they finally got the technology right. And part of what they're doing is they're developing these vaccines to different spikes, is the easiest way to think of it, on the line. And so these lines have different spikes, they're called opsies. And the dog vaccines are so clean that we almost have no reactions. And I expect that's what the human vaccines will be like. You know, with the mRNA vaccines, they're clean. You know, we used to tell people 1 in 30 dogs that get this shot are going to have a high fever, blah, blah, blah. It's more like 1 in 300 now. And so, if it's like the dog vaccine, it's going to be yearly. And it is one of the few vaccines we give that it's not precisely a year, but by 15 months, your immunity is completely gone. Okay, so the bigger the organism is, the harder it is to get long-term immunity. So I got a rabies vaccine in 1992. My titer's still very high. That's a real small virus. So you can get along these big. This is a rickettsia, basically a type of bacteria, not really, but kind of. And it's hard to get long-term immunity. So that's why those vaccines are still yearly in dogs, and they're probably going to be yearly forever, just because they can't develop a vaccine that's effective long-term without having too many problems associated with it. So these are going to be very clean vaccines. I think they're going to be very safe vaccines. There was a Lyme vaccine that came out in the 90s, had a fair number of side effects. They discontinued it. The technology is now to the point that it's going to be worth your while for your farmer, if you're a hunter. For me, I'm patient number one. So we're in third stage. So they started third stage approval 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. So they got to be closed. The Pfizer product.
So, if you suspect you have Lyme disease or something, and you go to the doctor and they kind of blow you off,
Yeah.
Would you just insist?
Yes, I would insist. I would insist and say, look, I'm pretty sure I have Lyme. If you're not going to test me, I want a course of doxycycline. I could tell you if you go out to this urgent care right now, I guess it's this direction, they'll test you as soon as you walk in the door. If you say, I go out in the woods all the time, I'm having some joint pain, I don't feel just right, they'll test you. Because they see that much. Is that the one that wasn't reporting properly? I think they were reported. I know they were reported because Teresa called my son to get data off of him. So yeah, they are reported. So if they blow you off, shame on them, because Lyme is just that common now. And the thing with Lyme is you're treated and you develop no immunity. You could literally get it 2 weeks later if you get re-exposed. It's one of those kind of things. That's part of the reason the vaccine was so hard to develop, because the way your body reacts to it. But at any rate, it's getting there. So yes, I personally, of course, I have doxycycline. So if I think I got Lyme, I actually tested myself, because the dog test will pick up people too. Don't tell the medical form, Dad. You want to read that? Okay, let's not, So yeah, the dog, it's a test. It'll test for Lyme in people because of what it's tested for. So I tested myself. Yes, doxycycline is very effective, and if you get it early, it's like 100% effective.
Is the test expensive?
I don't know in people, because it's all insurance-based. In dogs, it's now we're testing for heartworm, ehrlichiosis, anaplasmosis, and Lyme, so we're testing for 4 diseases. It's like $42. And the answer is it should be relatively cheap. But I honestly don't know what the Lyme test costs.
That the urgent care out there, they will test you as soon as you walk in.
Yeah.
If you let them know. So if your doctor wouldn't give it to you, because they're there.
Yeah. They're really in tune, because they've just seen so much of it. You walk in the door and say, these are my symptoms. They're like, we're going to test you for Lyme. If you got sore joints, you're getting tested for Lyme. If you got a high fever, you go out in the woods, you're getting tested for Lyme. When you have that big red thing, it's diagnostic, but not everybody gets that. I forget what like 20%, 80% don't get it, and it's something like 80%. Yeah. So people are like always looking for this big wheel. When you have it, it is completely diagnostic. But when you don't have it, that doesn't mean you don't have Lyme. So,
If you do have it, you don't get diagnosed right away. How long do you have before you get serious?
I don't know the answer to that, but what I know is that I do know that delays of 4 to 6 weeks can be significant. It's honestly, it's a individual immune reaction, so that's not very predictable. But the longer your body has to react to it, the easier it is for you to get long-term Lyme. And long-term Lyme is an immune system disease. Fibromyalgia is a real common. Chronic fatigue syndrome, those are primarily, and those are immune-mediated diseases. So, in this area, I mean, like I said, my neighbor had a tinnitus, and his wife was at this last Lyme call. I said, you need to get him tested. Took about 2 months, and they finally got him tested, and sure enough, he was positive. I mean, he was right next to the Harrison State Forest. This is Harrison State Forest. Yeah. So, as scary as Lyme is, the beef allergy is one that really scares the particular about me. Man, can you imagine not being able to eat meat? Imagine meat. I am not ready to be a vegetarian.
It's
Is there a
rough.
certain type of like males versus females for the lung star type that cause that allergic reaction?
No, it has to do with the way they inject it into your body. Okay. Some males don't feed. I don't know if Lone Star is one of the males that don't feed. Some of them are only ones that feed are female. I don't know for Lone Star what the case is. And the reason the females feed is because they use the energy of the blood to produce eggs. So most of these males may not feed, actually. I don't know that. I'd have to look that up. But no, and that once again is an individual reaction. So obviously if everybody that got bit by a Lone Star tick got allergies, the sales of beef would go way down. So it's not common, but when it happens, first of all, it's 3 or 4 months after you get bit by the tick. And you eat a hamburger the day before and you eat a hamburger the next day and you're not there. So that just freaks me out. Doesn't that freak you out a little bit?
Once it goes away, can it come back?
Absolutely.
Like, like it disappears.
No, so you would have to get bit again for it to come back.
Okay.
You'd have to get bit again for it to come back. But yeah, you can re-get it. And I don't know what the statistics are. The few people I've known had it, it's been several years before it wore off. So it says 8 months to 5 years, but the people that I've known 3 people, none of them were from around here. They were all more southern friends, but they took 2, 3, 4 years. They couldn't eat any beef. They would periodically just try a piece of hamburger and start to feel it in their mouth and take it in an histamine. So, yeah, a little bit.
For tick control, we talked about, how it's dry, very cold, windy and stuff.
Yeah.
What other forms of control are there for ticks?
Most of it is managing the environment. So, in places like Lyme, Connecticut, they actually landscape for ticks, and so they have areas around their property that are mulched, for instance, that have no brush or anything in them. So you have an urban area, and you have kids, you would like mulch all the way around because they're not going to cross that mulch. Okay, that sort of thing. So most of it's environmental manipulation is tick control. The brush ticks, deer tick. They live in brush, What are you going to do? Mow all the brush on all your property? Not in Ohio. If you got sunlight in Ohio, you got jagged. That's all there is to it. And brush.
So if you're out mowing your yard and doing things like that, it's not that serious?
Not that serious of an issue. They're going to be at what we call interfaces. So they're going to be at lawn woods interfaces is where they're going to be.
One more question.
Sure, you have as many questions as you want, boss.
Where do you buy the spray that you...
Well, that used to be only available at Cabela's, but now it's at Walmart, it's a bunch of different places.
Oh, okay.
But what is different about that particular product is it survives laundering. So you don't have to apply it every time you launder your pants. Yeah. So But I've seen it in Walmart now. I've seen it lots of different places. They might even have it at the hardware in Orange. I think I bought some in Orange. I don't remember. Tractor Supply.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they carry it. Yeah, I mean, 5-6 years ago you can only find it at Cabela's, but now it's just, it's a good product. It's what I recommend. Is that it? Thanks for coming.